And welcome back, everyone, to Pokemon Team Creation Series. From Burnouter, we have the question of, what is Enid from this TV series Wednesday's Pokemon Team? A TV series, I should note, I have yet to actually get around to watching. It's on the list. Me and my girlfriend have a lot of stuff to watch, but I do know mostly what goes on in Wednesday to what I feel is make a appropriate team. Enid, we know, is a werewolf. She is the werewolf and kind of, whether Wednesday would admit or not, Wednesday's best friend. Her roommate at minimum. Unlike Wednesday, she is bright and colorful, actually even stressing bright and colorful. Much more open with her emotions. She is, I believe, the alpha werewolf as of season 2, which does make make transforming into a werewolf a little bit difficult. But overall, admittedly, there's not a huge amount of diversity with her to make a really coherent team. So I am stretching a little bit. But let's get that out of the way right now. Being a werewolf means she's going to have a Lycanroc on her team. Now, this is not a werewolf. This is a day form Lycanroc. Why? Well, to be honest, I think it actually makes sense that she has both this and midnight form Lycanroc, which I do need to update that image of that Lycanroc. It's just a little fuzzy. I need a clearer image. The reason I think both of these would be on their team is because it represents kind of both sides of her werewolf heritage and of herself. Because despite the fact she is a werewolf, she's not a evil person at all. She's actually a very good, sweet person. And I think these both represent each other fairly well in that regard. Plus, Midnight Lycanroc is very much, and as a werewolf, she can actually control herself in her werewolf form, and if she's in the right mindset. Besides that, Midnight Lycanroc is really the only true werewolf Pokemon we actually have. And even then, it's not a real true blue werewolf. It's about as close as you get to one, though. Okay, so beyond that, though, she is, like I said, more colorful, very much leaning into the more colorful aspects of her, her personality. And she's a lot more emotional. She's a lot more in tune with emotions than, say, someone like Wednesday is. Although Wednesday is apt with emotions. She does feel emotion. She just doesn't express emotion. Still, though, I went with Curlia being a part of the emotional line of the Ralts line, Gardevoir line, being emotionally hypersensitive Pokemon. But it's also a more bright, vibrant Pokemon. You'll note, though, it's not a Gardevoir. Enid still has a lot of growing to do as a character. I think if we continue to get seasons of Wednesday and have her character grow, if we redid the list, it would be a Gardevoir. I might even make the argument of a Mega Gardevoir, just because she is a very good friend and creates a lot of strong bonds with the people around her. Now, the remaining three, I did want to lean more towards that aspect of her, not the bonds, but the color part. Because she is very vibrant, wears these rainbow colors, her nails and claws are rainbow looking. So I did want to lean more into that aspect of her. But there's a little bit of other things about her in there too. Comfey, for example, is nothing but a lay of rainbow flowers, basically. Really, the Pokemon is actually very small when you actually break down how big a Comfey actually is. That lay of flowers just makes it look a bit bigger. But no, that little Pokemon right there is actually the only the body it's the only thing that's an actual Pokemon on this thing. But I do think this would be something Enid would like. Very colorful, very vibrant. Now, there is no, to the best of my ability, and I'm going to look this up just to be sure, back to my ability to remember, there is no rainbow Pokemon, if I'm not mistaken. Rainbow Pokemon. Let's see, rainbow. There's rainbow Pokemon cards, Rainbow Rocket, but there's even Pokemon that represent light. But there is no Pokemon. Like, you could make an argument for Yveltal. Not Yveltal, what am I thinking about? Zekrom. How to get Yveltal from Zekrom. Because it's supposed to be based on a prism and does have some rainbow color on it, but there's nothing else about Zekrom apart from that would make sense to be on Enid's team. So I went for more just multicolored Pokemon, or Pokemon that can somehow express multiple colors. For example, Grafaiai. When we actually go into I believe it's the Tanglewood Forest, I believe that's where you find Grafaiai wild in Paldea. I could be wrong on the name of the forest. It's that foresty area where the Poison Leader Team Star is. That you look at where all like the and even in Grafaiai's introduction video, it isn't just painting. It makes multiple colors of multiple berries. Now, yes, it is a poison type, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't still be on. Good people can have poison types on their team. And it'd be really cool to see it and Enid kind of like painting together. I think that could be really fun. You might think of Smeargle, but Smeargle's ability to paint isn't really as prominent. Yes, it can paint. It is depicted kind of like as a painter with an easel, obviously, but its ability with painting comes more from the sketch move it learns. So, no. Last but not least, though, again, a very vibrant, very feminine, and probably her ace Pokemon on this team would be Milotic. Again, considered to be one of the most beautiful Pokemon. Enid is a very beautiful young lady. She's like 15 or whatever in the show, but whatever. For her age and her age group, she's a very beautiful young lady. And Milotic's also very color. Like, there's at least, 4 different colors in there? I mean, yeah, you see black, but you see the yellow, the red, the blue. Honestly, if they had done a Mega Milotic, which I believe, if the rumor mill is true on Mega Dimensions, there is no Mega Milotic. But regardless, I think it's a nice cap-off Pokemon. Now, there are plenty of other multicolored Pokemon that could work. I could have made it a full team of dogs to represent werewolves, but there's really not many other Pokemon beyond these guys that kind of work as werewolves. So I didn't feel that really worked as well. Excuse me, yawning. So, yeah. And again, beyond that, there's not a lot, at least, that we see as a core trait. I mean, apart from her loyalty to her friends, which any one of these Mon could theoretically be that. Particularly more maybe so the Lycanrocs, because they evolve times a day and are said to be very loyal, particularly the day form Lycanroc. And Curly is, emotional attachment to people. So there's that. I think this is an okay team. So is it one of those teams that I'm like, yep, no, this is the definitive team? No, I wouldn't say that. I think you could definitely do some things different with this team. I still think, though, you need to keep at least at minimum the midday and the midday and the midnight form Lycanroc on the team. Minimum, we got to keep those guys on the team. And I also feel pretty confident, at least with like the Comfey. I think that would work. Just because of how colorful and vibrant it is. So there's that. But as always, how balanced is this team? And I'm gonna tell you right now, not very, especially if you're trying to do a playthrough with this team. Why is that? Well, it does have the advantage against flying types, bug types, ice types, dragon types, and rock types, and fighting types with ×2 advantages in multiple categories against those Mons, or Mon types. It's also got a ×3 advantage against fire as well, as you have a water and 2 rock types on the team. Unfortunately, its weaknesses kind of counteract that, because while it's technically got, in terms of the amount of types it's good against, more advantages than it does disadvantages, the level of disadvantage it has against the other types is pretty high. It's got a ×2 weakness to water, ×3 weakness to grass, ×3 weakness to ground, ×2 weakness to fighting, to poison, and a ×4 weakness to steel. That steel and the water, honestly, are the 2 things that really kind of killed this team with its run-through vibes. Grass also didn't help. Why? Because, as always, the first Pokemon you see is representative of her starting Pokemon. So she starts with a Rockruff, and I'm not going to bury the lead, as I always don't, as I never do. You cannot become champion in any region whatsoever. Why? Well, in Kanto, you would stop at Misty, because you have 2 Rockruffs that aren't even fully evolved yet going up against the Water Gym. It's just not happening. If you go all the way to the end, and you were able to fight Blue, it's not impossible, I think, to beat Blue. The problem just immediately, though, is she starts with a Pidgeot. Okay, that's easy to take down. Then Alakazam, which you should have Crunch at least on the Midnight form Lycanroc, but their special defenses aren't that good. So I wouldn't say it's impossible, but if you can't take it down with one of them, this entire team gets swept. Let's hypothetically say, though, you are able to get the killing blow in on the Alakazam, but you probably lost your Lycanrocs midway through. He's going to bring out Rhydon. You'll bring out Milotic. Take that thing down. That's easy. Then he's going to bring out his grass type, whatever it is, be it his starter, though normally he saves the starter for last, or the Executor he has. unless your Milotic has Ice Beam, which I can't remember if that thing learns naturally or not. I don't remember. You're gonna have a bad time. It's not gonna be good for you. Even then, you still got to deal with his water type, which is either Blastoise or Gyarados, which is not good, and his fire type, which is either Arcanine or Charizard, which Milotic should be able to handle, admittedly, but at best it's a maybe. At best it's a maybe. But in Johto, you'd already struggle with Whitney. The first two gyms are no problem, actually. In fact, you sweep those gyms. Whitney, though, because of how low-level Johto is, you would still manage to have a Curly at level 20, because I do allow like a slight above level cap, like 2 levels above. But you still wouldn't have the Lycanrocs. If you had the Lycanrocs, you'd be able to take on Whitney easy. As it stands, though, you would still be struggling against Whitney. Curly being at least midway evolved and having special attacks and things like Confusion or Sweet Kiss, if I remember correctly, you might be able to bring her down. So it's not an end-all be-all. But after that, you wouldn't struggle really with the next two gyms, because at that point you do have Lycanroc Midnight Form, who has Crunch. And I think also Day Form gets Crunch too. So Dark-type moves takes out Ghost-type, no problem. You'd partly struggle. In fact, you wouldn't even partly. There'd be some struggling going on with Chuck. Even though you have 3 Mon good against fighting, or at very minimum that resist fighting, you only got 2 Mon that actually do legit damage, and might be able to bring down his entire team. But I think that's possible. Jasmine, though, is your next big problem, just due to the fact she's a Steel-type user. Now, again, Lycanroc and the Lycanrocs are strong enough to get some hits in, do some damage, certainly. But against Steelix, the only thing you really got going for you against Steelix is Milotic. And really then, it's only because it's a ground type. And even then, its bulk is enough that it should be able to take a hit or two, water-wise. And it's going to cleave through your Lycanrocs. Your Grafaiite isn't going to be doing shit against it. Comfey and Curly are straight out weak to it. It's not an easy-going fight. Not impossible, though. Where I do think you just run into the stopgap, though, or the blockade, is Claire. Now, you might think that's weird having 2 fairies on the team. But Curly is not fully evolved. If it were a Gardevoir, I'd feel very different about this. But it's a Curlia. And Enid is still growing, so that's why it's a Curlia. I don't want to make it a Gardevoir. And Comfey, while it's not terrible stat-wise, cannot take on 3 Dragonairs on its own that have other things besides dragon moves on it. Not to mention that your Rockruff or your Lycanrocs are just going to be taken down by Surfs or just, whatever water moves on the Mons at the time. And Grafaiite just isn't going to be able to do much. And don't even get me started on Lance. Lance has enough coverage for this entire team. So, yeah, you wouldn't be able to beat Johto. Hoenn, you stop at Brawly. Second gym's a fighting type gym, you stop at Brawly. And because of the weakness to Steel, you'd be no good against Steven. So, yeah, no, that's a no-go. Sinnoh, you stop at Gardenia. She has a freaking fully evolved Rose Raid, and you still wouldn't have 2 Lycanroc, which would still get creamed by that Rose Raid. Not to mention she's got the Turtwig and the Cherubi, so that's not happening. Cynthia, you're already in trouble with Cynthia. You'd have to swap out the Lycanrocs to just throw in Comfey, and even then Comfey's not going to be strong enough to one-shot a Spirit Tomb. Then you're going to have to deal with the Gastrodon, going to have to deal with the Rose Raid, which you don't actually have any good answer for on this team, save for maybe a low-level Psychic move at this point from Curlia, just because its stats aren't up to snuff. Then you got Gastrodon, who's got water and ground types to take care of the bulk of this team. Then her own Milotic, then Lucario, and then Garchomp. Needless to say, it's a no-go. In Unova, you could get past most of the first gyms except for, actually, you'd get about 50-50, because you could deal with Sharon from Black and White 2, and you can deal with Chili. You can't deal with Crest or Cillian, though, because they both have type advantages over your Rockruff. But that means you can still move on. Okay, great. Then you're dealing with Roxy. Poison and Rock are just kind of meh, but her ace is a Whirlipede, so you should be fine. And then you got to deal with Lenora, Lenora, for that stage in the game, is tough. It'd be difficult, but doable. Then at that point, you would be going up against Berg either way, and yeah, you could make mincemeat of Berg, no problem. You could also honestly go fairly well against Elisa because Rock. I used to think Rock was strong against Electric. It's not, but it's not weak either. And the Emolga, with those annoying ass little bastards, would be able to go down pretty quick to a Rock type move. So far, it's all looking good, right? Wonderful. Then you get to Clay. Rock and Poison, which Grafai Eye is half, are all both weak to ground. Not to mention, Comfy and Curly don't have any strong moves against ground. Unfortunately, Clay is where the buck stops. Even if you could get to the champions, Iris's team is still, quite frankly, way beyond even like this team. Even with a fairy type, that Hydreigon's got more than enough coverage. And unfortunately, all Alder has to do is get out the the Escavalier, and it's game over because you got nothing to deal with that thing. Like, nothing. And he can completely cleave through all of your team, save the Milotic. And even then, it's just good luck. So yeah, no, you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it there. Kalos, you would already struggle with Karina. That's where you'd first really struggle because fighting type moves against the bulk of your team at that point take out 2/3 of your team. Curly, sure, is psychic and fairy, but that just makes her resistant to moves. It doesn't make it immune. It's not impossible, but not a guarantee. Ramos is actually even worse because now you don't even have a type advantage against the grass type gym. He also has a Weeping Bell on the damn team, which means Comfy's in trouble. And Curly, actually. Even though it could still hit it with a well-placed psychic move. So, and then even if we could rationalize getting all the way to Elite Four, Wingstrom's a steel type trainer and you have no good options against his team. And Diantha, her Halucha is already problematic. Assuming you bring it down on your own without, losing too much, you're probably losing at least one of your Lycanrocs minimum. Comfy it also has Poison Jab, so Comfy's no good. Look, you're struggling just to beat the Halucha. So even if you could, then you got to deal with the Tyrantrum, which at that point now you probably either lost Comfy or only have Comfy, and that thing has Head Smash, so it's going to take down Comfy. You have Auroras, which you don't have a good answer for either. The best you could do is maybe some Rock type moves for neutral damage, because I think Rock resists Rock. Yeah, it's just bad all around. Then, I will always skip Alola because there's no gyms there. There's no league. Then you have Galar, which you don't get past Milo. It's a grass type gym. It's just you can't get past Milo. And even if you got all the way to Leon, he starts with an Aegislash, which you have no good answer for. Like, seriously, no good answer for whatsoever. The best hypothetical answer you have is Milotic, simply for the neutrality of it. And that's not even factoring in Dragapult. So Leon's a no-go. And then there's freaking Gita. First off, there's Paldea. You would probably stop at Brassius. He's a grass-type trainer. You'd still have Rockruffs at that point. Yeah, he only has a Smoliv. What's the third grass? Smoliv, Sudowoodo. What was the other grass type he had? Oh, I'm blanking on what the other grass type was. Let's see here. Give me 1 second here. It's on I know it off the tip of my tongue. It's bothering the hell out of me right now. Let's see here now. Scarlet and Violet. What was Brassius's team? Okay. Gyms. Brassius has Smoliv. Oh, a Patil. And that's got Mega Drain on it, the Patil, which means, and again, being type disadvantage is no good. And Sleep Powder. It's only got 2 moves, but those 2 moves can really mess you up. Not to mention, Sudowoodo is a fully evolved Pokemon. Granted, not a huge stat line, but far higher than Rockruff. At level 17, who's got Trailblaze, which is going to become a grass-type move. Needless to say, you're in for a bad time. Even if you could get all the way to Gita. Yeah, this is one of those times Gita's team actually is good enough to take on the team because the team is not that good. Her team's not that good. And the way she plays her team is notoriously not that good. King Gambit should have been her ace and she should have saved it for last. But she starts with Apathra. Now you should have like crunch on there, which is fine. Maybe you take one shot it, but the minimum, if you one shot it, great. But then she's gonna bring out Veluza, which is a water type, with liquidation and aqua jet, and yeah, it's gonna outspeed and hit and probably start taking down your Lycanrocs. Which means now you got to deal with that thing. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's problematic. Comfy might be the option, because let me put it this way. The Lycanroc, you'll lose one Lycanroc to it. You'll probably have another one available. If that one has a crunch on it, you could maybe take the Veluza down. But it's not easy. It doesn't look good. Then she brings out the Go-Goat, which is, again, problematic. But you do have Grafaiai for that. So that at least is, you have a possible answer for. That's when she brings afterwards out the King Gambit. I think she brings it out 4th or 3rd. I can never remember. And unfortunately, this is where, again, the buck stops. While you do have a somewhat type advantage, courtesy of Kirlia and Comfy, the Steel type cuts that advantage in half. It just makes it neutral. And the fact is, he has Iron Head, Zen Headbutt, Stone Edge, and Kowtow Cleave. She's never going to have to bring out the Avalugg or the Glimmora. The ironic thing is, if she did, you probably would be able to beat them without that much difficulty. Thanks to Milotic just having a sheer type advantage over. Well, it resists ice. It doesn't, it's not strong against ice, but it completely would take down the Glimmora. But anyway, I digress. This is the team for Enid. Now, keep in mind, as always, I'm not designing these to be, champion teams to beat the league. That's not what we're doing. We're just making the best team we can, given the circumstances, to match the character in question. So, did you agree with this team? Did you disagree with this team? What would you do different if you did? Let me know in the comments below. But thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'll see you folks for the next one.